In the heart of ancient Macedonia, where the whispers of intrigue and ambition lingered in the air of the royal court, a child destined to change the world was born in 356 BC. Alexander, the son of King Philip II and Queen Olympias, opened his eyes in Pella, the bustling capital of a kingdom on the brink of greatness. From his earliest days, Alexander's life was a canvas of contrasting colors, the deep hues of royal lineage and the bright tones of unparalleled ambition. Welcome to another episode of Plaid Chronicles. The young prince's education was anything but ordinary. Under the tutelage of Aristotle, one of history's greatest minds, Alexander developed not only a keen intellect, but also an insatiable thirst for knowledge and conquest. Aristotle's teachings went beyond mere academics. He instilled in Alexander a profound admiration for Homer's epics, perhaps foreshadowing the epic journey that lay ahead for his pupil. It's said that Alexander would later carry the Iliad with him on his campaigns, a constant reminder of the heroic ideals he so aspired to emulate. The environment of the Macedonian court further shaped Alexander. It was a place where power plays and political intrigue were as common as the air they breathed. His mother, Queen Olympias, with her formidable intelligence and fierce ambition, was a particularly strong influence. Her determination and political acumen were qualities that Alexander would come to embody himself. Despite the opulence that surrounded him, Alexander's upbringing was not one of unbridled luxury, but of rigorous preparation for a life of leadership and conquest. In this hotbed of ambition and intellect, Alexander's destiny was being forged. The young prince quickly developed a reputation for his sharp mind and an even sharper ambition, traits that would soon propel him onto the world stage. As he grew, so did his aspirations, fueled by the tales of heroes and the tangible air of destiny that enveloped the Macedonian court. Yet beneath the surface of this extraordinary upbringing, the undercurrents of a complex family dynamic played a pivotal role. The royal court of Macedonia was a labyrinth of alliances and enmities, a place where a word out of place could mean the difference between favor and downfall. In such a world, Alexander learned the art of navigating treacherous political waters, a skill that would prove invaluable in his later conquests. It was amidst these early experiences that Alexander's character was honed, a blend of his father's military genius, his mother's political acuity, and his tutor's intellectual breadth. This combination of influences would be instrumental in shaping the man who would come to be known as Alexander the Great. His life began as a tapestry woven with threads of ambition, intelligence, and destiny, under the watchful eyes of those who would see him either rise to unparalleled heights or fall like Icarus, too close to the sun. In a twist of fate, the world would come to know not just a king or a conqueror, but a legend whose name would echo through the ages. As Alexander himself would later say, "I am indebted to my father for living, but to my teacher for living well." This sentiment perfectly encapsulates the early years of a young prince who was to become one of history's most enduring figures, driven by an unquenchable desire to exceed the ordinary bounds of kingship and to etch his name in the annals of history forever. In the year 336 BC, under a sky heavy with portent, the dagger that ended King Philip II's reign in Macedonia also unwittingly carved the path for his son, Alexander, a mere 20 years old, to ascend to a throne shadowed by intrigue and bloodshed. This pivotal moment, shrouded in the dark cloak of conspiracy, marked the beginning of a new era, one that would see the rise of one of history's most formidable conquerors. As the news of Philip's assassination echoed through the halls of the royal palace in Pella, young Alexander faced a kingdom fraught with uncertainty and latent dissent. The young prince, whose very existence had been steeped in the teachings of Aristotle and the machinations of a complex court, understood the precariousness of his position. With a maturity that belied his years, Alexander moved with a calculated urgency to secure his hold on the throne. The consolidation of his power was a masterstroke of political acumen. Potential rivals who lurked in the shadows, eyeing the throne with veiled ambition, were swiftly and decisively dealt with. Alexander displayed a blend of diplomatic guile and ruthless efficiency, characteristics that would come to define his reign. In these early acts of kingship, one could discern the emerging silhouette of a leader who would not only rule, but also reshape the world. Integral to his consolidation were key figures, each playing a vital role in the architecture of his reign. His mother, Olympias, a woman of formidable intellect and unyielding ambition, was a constant presence, her influence pervading the early days of his rule. Her counsel, steeped in the experience of navigating the treacherous waters of court politics, was invaluable to the young king. In the military sphere, Antipater, a trusted general of his father and a seasoned campaigner, provided a bedrock of support. His loyalty and military prowess helped stabilize Alexander's position in Macedonia, particularly during the young king's ambitious campaigns abroad. Another figure of significance was Ptolemy, one of Alexander's closest companions and confidants. Ptolemy's counsel and loyalty would not only prove crucial in the years to come, but would also shape the historical narrative of Alexander's exploits as he later became one of the primary sources for historians. In this tumultuous period, Alexander's actions spoke of a young ruler who was not just content with inheriting his father's kingdom, but was driven to surpass it. His eyes were set on a horizon far beyond the borders of Macedonia, on lands and peoples yet to feel the tread of his armies. In his mind, the concept of a world empire was not just a dream, but a destiny he was born to fulfill. Amidst the serious undertakings of statecraft and military planning, a whimsical note resonates. For all his grand ambitions and meticulous plans, Alexander remained a man who once quipped that he feared not the vastness of the world, but the possibility of running out of worlds to conquer. In this critical juncture of history, as Alexander girded himself for the trials ahead, his actions and decisions laid the foundation for what would become one of the greatest empires the world has ever known. In his relentless pursuit of greatness, he embodied the sentiment expressed by his tutor, Aristotle. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. This ethos would drive Alexander to not only seize his father's legacy, but to vastly extend it, cementing his place in the annals of history as Alexander the Great. In 334 BC, as the dawn of a new age approached, Alexander the Great embarked on an audacious campaign that would etch his name into the annals of history. His conquests, a blend of audacious courage and unparalleled military strategy, began with the invasion of Asia Minor, a vast and varied land that stood as the gateway to the riches of the East. The Battle of the Granicus, fought in 334 BC, was the first major test of Alexander's military genius. Facing a formidable Persian force, Alexander's tactics at Granicus were a testament to his boldness and strategic acumen. Charging across the river, Alexander led his companion cavalry in a daring assault, overwhelming the Persian satraps. This victory not only established his reputation as a fearless leader, but also demonstrated the effectiveness of the Macedonian phalanx, a military formation that would become synonymous with his conquests. In the year 333 BC, under the scorching sun of the Near East, the stage was set for a confrontation that would alter the course of history. The Battle of Issus, a clash of titans between the young Macedonian king Alexander and the mighty Persian emperor Darius III, was about to unfold. The air was thick with tension, the ground trembling under the weight of anticipation. Alexander, undaunted by the formidable Persian force that outnumbered his own, surveyed the narrow battlefield. His eyes, alight with the fire of ambition and strategy, saw not an obstacle, but an opportunity. The narrow plain between the mountains and the sea would limit the Persians' advantage in numbers, a critical insight that would prove decisive. As the battle commenced, the clash of steel and the cries of warriors filled the air, a symphony of chaos and courage. Alexander led his phalanx with precision, the bristling spears of his infantry moving like a single entity, an unbreakable wall of determination and skill. His heavy cavalry, the companion cavalry, waited in the wings, a deadly force poised to strike. Meanwhile, Darius atop his chariot watched as his numerically superior army struggled to maneuver in the constricted battlefield. The overconfidence of the Persian emperor had led him to underestimate the cunning of his youthful adversary. The Macedonian forces, like a well-oiled machine, advanced, their momentum building with every step. In a masterful display of tactical ingenuity, Alexander seized the moment. With a thunderous charge, he led his companion cavalry in a daring flank attack. Cutting through the Persian lines like a blade through silk, they headed straight for Darius. The sight of the young king charging forward, his armor gleaming in the sun, struck fear into the hearts of the Persian soldiers. The Persian lines faltered, then broke under the relentless Macedonian assault. Darius, witnessing the collapse of his army and the ferocity of Alexander's charge, was seized by panic. In a moment that would haunt him for the rest of his life, he turned his chariot around and fled, leaving behind not just the battlefield but also his family, who fell into Alexander's hands. The Battle of Issus ended in a resounding victory for Alexander. The young king's brilliance, his ability to turn the tide against overwhelming odds, had not only won him the battle, but also marked a seismic shift in the power dynamics of the ancient world. This victory was not just a testament to Alexander's military genius, it was a statement to the world that a new era had dawned, an era where the name Alexander would be synonymous with unparalleled conquest and ambition. The following year, in 332 BC, Alexander laid siege to Tyre, a strategically crucial and seemingly impregnable island city. After a grueling 7-month siege, employing both naval blockades and the construction of a causeway, Alexander captured Tyre, a feat that was as much a display of his persistence as it was of his military prowess. This victory opened the path to Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator from Persian rule. In Egypt, Alexander's actions transcended that of a conqueror. He embraced local customs and founded the city of Alexandria, a gesture that illustrated his vision of a blended empire where Greek and Eastern cultures would intertwine. The year 331 BC witnessed a spectacle of war that would echo through the ages as Alexander the Great faced Darius III in the decisive Battle of Gaugamela, also known as the Battle of Arbela. The vast plains near Gaugamela, under the endless expanse of the Mesopotamian sky, became the arena where destinies would be forged and an empire's fate sealed. As dawn broke, the air was charged with anticipation. Alexander, astride his steed, gazed across the battlefield at the massive Persian army, an imposing sea of warriors and chariots that stretched as far as the eye could see. Despite the daunting odds, a determined calm rested upon him. He knew this battle would be his greatest test, a moment that demanded not just courage, but a masterstroke of tactical brilliance. The battle commenced with the thunderous roar of thousands of men charging, the ground shaking under their collective might. Alexander's phalanx, a formidable wall of spears and shields, advanced steadily, a relentless force moving in perfect unison. The Persian army, led by Darius, responded with a barrage of arrows and a charge of their own, their numbers overwhelming. But Alexander, a master of the art of war, had a stratagem up his sleeve. In a bold and unexpected move, he ordered a feigned retreat. The Macedonians, in a disciplined maneuver, began to slowly pull back, creating an illusion of weakness, a bait that Darius took. As the Persians surged forward, a gap emerged in their lines, a vulnerability that Alexander had anticipated. Seizing the moment with the precision of a hawk diving for its prey, Alexander led his companion cavalry in a swift, ferocious charge. Cutting through the gap in the Persian lines, they headed straight for Darius. The Persian emperor, upon seeing Alexander's menacing figure leading the charge, felt a chill of fear. The battle's tide was turning. In the ensuing chaos, the Persian army, now leaderless and demoralized by the sight of their emperor fleeing the battlefield, crumbled. Alexander's forces pushed forward with relentless vigor, their swords and spears flashing in the sunlight, cutting down the disarrayed Persian soldiers. The Battle of Gaugamela ended with a decisive victory for Alexander. It was not just a triumph of arms, but a triumph of strategic genius. The fall of the Persian Empire, a colossus that had loomed large over the ancient world, was now inevitable. Alexander's victory at Gaugamela was a testament to his ability to turn the tide of battle against overwhelming odds, a feat that solidified his reputation as one of the greatest military commanders in history. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the cries of battle faded, the world knew that a new era had dawned. Alexander the Great had not only conquered an empire, but had also redefined the art of war, leaving a legacy that would inspire generations to come. Central to these campaigns were key military figures like Parmenion and Hephaestion. Parmenion, a seasoned general, provided invaluable strategic counsel, while Hephaestion, Alexander's closest friend and confidant, played a critical role both on and off the battlefield. Throughout these campaigns, Alexander's military tactics were not just about brute force. They were a blend of psychological warfare, rapid mobility, and the exploitation of enemy weaknesses. His ability to adapt to different battle conditions and his charismatic leadership style endeared him to his troops and instilled a sense of invincibility within them. In the midst of his sweeping conquests, a whimsical thought might have crossed Alexander's mind. In a world where the word impossible was often a boundary, he saw it as merely a challenge to be overcome. His campaigns were not just battles won, but a reshaping of the world order, driven by a vision that was as audacious as it was unprecedented. In these 4 years of relentless campaigning, Alexander transformed from a king to a legend, embodying the words of Homer, whom he greatly admired. There is a time for many words, and there is also a time for sleep. For Alexander, however, the time for sleep was far off, as he continued to push the boundaries of the known world, driven by a boundless ambition and a relentless pursuit of glory and greatness. In the years 327 to 323 BC, Alexander the Great, having etched his name in the annals of military history, turned his unparalleled ambition towards a grand vision of cultural integration and administrative innovation. This period was not just about the consolidation of his vast empire, but also about laying the foundations for a cultural and administrative legacy that would resonate through the ages. Alexander's promotion of Hellenism, the spread of Greek culture and language, was not merely a matter of imperial policy, but a deeply held belief in the universality of Greek ideals and knowledge. He envisioned a world where Greek culture would meld with the myriad traditions and customs of the lands he conquered, creating a rich tapestry of shared knowledge and mutual respect. This Hellenic influence, seen in the founding of cities and the establishment of educational institutions, sought to bind the diverse regions of his empire into a cohesive and enlightened whole. One of the most symbolic acts of this cultural fusion was Alexander's marriage in 327 BC to Roxana, the daughter of a Bactrian noble. This union was more than a political alliance. It was a powerful statement of Alexander's commitment to the integration of Greek and Eastern cultures. Roxana, renowned for her beauty and intelligence, represented the bridging of two worlds. Their marriage was a microcosm of Alexander's broader vision, a blending of civilizations that promised a new era of understanding and cooperation. In the realm of administration, Alexander demonstrated a forward-thinking approach to governance. He implemented policies designed to integrate the vastly diverse populations of his empire. These reforms included the establishment of new administrative structures and the inclusion of local leaders in governance, ensuring a sense of participation and representation among the conquered peoples. Alexander's approach was revolutionary for its time, recognizing the value of diversity in creating a stable, and prosperous empire. Accompanying Alexander on his journeys were not only soldiers and generals, but also a retinue of scientists, engineers, and historians. Among them was Callisthenes, a historian who documented Alexander's conquests and the cultures he encountered. These intellectuals played a crucial role in the Hellenistic world, preserving knowledge and fostering the exchange of ideas. Their presence in Alexander's entourage underscored his commitment to intellectual pursuits and the importance he placed on knowledge and learning. This period of Alexander's reign was marked by a profound understanding of the power of culture and knowledge in unifying a diverse empire. His efforts in cultural integration were not just about imposing Greek culture, but about creating a dialogue between civilizations, a dialogue that would enrich his empire and leave a lasting legacy. Amidst his grand ambitions and sweeping reforms, Alexander perhaps mused whimsically that while he could conquer lands and peoples, the hearts and minds of his subjects were a territory that required a different kind of conquest, one of respect, understanding, and shared vision. Through these endeavors, Alexander the Great transcended the role of a conqueror to become a visionary architect of a world where diverse cultures could coalesce and thrive. He lived the words of Aristotle, his early tutor, "Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all." In his pursuit of cultural and administrative integration, Alexander sought not just to educate the mind of his empire, but also to win its heart, creating a legacy that would endure far beyond his own lifetime. In the year 324 BC, as the sun set over the majestic city of Babylon, a shadow fell upon the heart of Alexander the Great, dimming the brilliance of a reign that had redrawn the map of the known world. This was not the shadow of an enemy or the threat of rebellion, but a personal tragedy that pierced the armor of the invincible conqueror, the death of Hephaestion, his closest friend, confidant, and brother in arms. Hephaestion's passing was a blow that shook the very foundations of Alexander's world. The two had stood side by side, not only on the blood-soaked fields of battle, but also in the quiet moments where dreams of a unified empire were whispered. Together, they had envisioned a realm where the cultures of East and West intertwined, a vision born of shared ambition and brotherhood. In Hephaestion, Alexander had found a kindred spirit, a man who not only shared his battles, but also the depths of his aspirations. The news of Hephaestion's death came as a brutal shock. The streets of Babylon, usually alive with the hustle of trade and the grandeur of imperial processions, were now hushed, as if in mourning. Alexander, who had faced the might of Persia, who had crossed deserts and conquered empires, was brought to his knees by grief. The man who had always been a step ahead of fate now found himself grappling with a loss that seemed insurmountable. In his profound sorrow, Alexander decreed a period of mourning across his vast empire. From the sun-kissed shores of Greece to the mystic lands of India, a pall of sorrow hung over the land. The funeral plans for Hephaestion were laid out on a scale befitting a hero of the empire. Alexander desired a farewell that would echo through the ages, a tribute fit for a man who had been his shadow in conquest and his light in moments of doubt. The once indomitable Alexander seemed diminished, his steps less sure, his gaze lost in the distance. The loss of Hephaestion was more than the passing of a friend, it was the crumbling of a part of his soul. In the bustling streets of Babylon, amidst the opulence of palaces and the whispers of courtiers, Alexander moved like a specter, haunted by memories and the cruel hand of fate. This loss marked the beginning of the end for Alexander. The invincible image he had cultivated was now marred by a vulnerability that resonated with all who saw him. In the twilight of his life, as he navigated the corridors of power and the labyrinth of his own grief, Alexander was a changed man. The year 324 BC would forever be etched in history as the moment when the world's greatest conqueror came face to face with the one adversary he could not defeat, the relentless march of time and the inevitable tide of human emotion. The following year, in 323 BC, the world witnessed the sudden fall of this colossus. Alexander, still in the prime of his life at 32, fell ill in Babylon under mysterious circumstances. Theories about his death range from natural causes to poisoning, but the true cause remains a subject of debate among historians. His passing left a void that echoed through the corridors of power across his vast empire. The man who had conquered the world had been unable to conquer mortality. Alexander's death precipitated a crisis of succession. He left no clear heir to his empire, which stretched from Greece to the fringes of India. This lack of a designated successor led to the division of his empire among his generals, known as the Diadochi. These divisions plunged the Hellenistic world into decades of conflict and power struggles, fragmenting the vast territory into several kingdoms under the rule of his former generals and their descendants. Despite the fragmentation of his empire, Alexander's cultural impact was indelible. His conquests had spread Greek culture and language across the known world, giving rise to the Hellenistic period, a time marked by a remarkable fusion of Greek, Persian, Egyptian, and Indian cultures. This cultural blending had lasting effects, influencing art, architecture, language, and philosophy in diverse regions for centuries. Alexander's historical perception as one of the greatest military leaders was cemented by his tactical brilliance and his ability to inspire his troops. His campaigns are studied in military academies worldwide, and his name is synonymous with strategic genius and unquenchable ambition. In his final years, Alexander the Great seemed to embody the very essence of a tragic hero, a man whose extraordinary achievements were shadowed by personal loss and the eventual disintegration of his empire. In a whimsical twist of fate, the man who sought to conquer the world was ultimately conquered by the inexorable march of time. Alexander the Great's life, a tapestry of conquest and courage, is perfectly encapsulated in his poignant reflections. When my casket is being carried to the grave, leave my hands hanging outside. For empty-handed I came into this world, and empty-handed I shall go. My whole life has been a hollow waste, a futile exercise, for no one at death can take anything with them. This profound admission reveals the ultimate realization of a man who conquered the world yet acknowledged the transient nature of earthly achievements. Simultaneously, Alexander's philosophy on fear offers a stark contrast to this somber reflection. Through every generation of the human race, there has been a constant war, a war with fear. Those who have the courage to conquer it are made free, and those who are conquered by it are made to suffer until they have the courage to defeat it, or death takes them. These words echo a life lived on the edge of possibility, relentlessly battling the specter of fear. Alexander's existence was not merely a journey across lands, but a crusade against the invisible shackles of fear. Merging these perspectives, Alexander's life becomes a powerful lesson in the dual nature of human experience. His military conquests and fearless approach paint the picture of a man who relentlessly pursued greatness, challenging norms, and overcoming fears. Yet his introspection on the futility of material gains underscores the ephemeral nature of worldly success. In essence, Alexander's story is a riveting narrative of conquering external battles and facing internal truths, a reminder that while courage can free us from fear, wisdom teaches us the humility of our own existence. In this duality lies the essence of Alexander's legacy, a legacy that continues to inspire. A life of fearless pursuit, marked by a profound understanding of life's ultimate truth. As Plutarch, the ancient historian, later reflected, the most permanent fame comes from undertakings that are noble rather than merely great. Alexander's life, a tapestry of both greatness and tragedy, left a legacy that has continued to fascinate and inspire generations long after his death.
I'm great.
If this narrative resonated with you, do support us. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe. Thank you for staying with us to the end. See you in the next video on Plaid Chronicles.